What is up, everyone? Timothy Wenger here. About to do another live interview for the Man Effect. My guest should be arriving here soon. So let's just wait to see. I hope you're all doing good today. If you're rewatching this, let me know how you're doing. If you're watching this live, thanks for giving us your time. What's up, Tasha? See you're watching. How's it going? In today's interview, my guest is from Australia. So I'm super excited about this. His name's David Mee. He's a great guy. So he should be jumping on here anytime here. There he is. Here we go. What's up, Jeremy? Thanks for watching, man. There he is, David.
Hey,
what is
hello.
Up?
I made it.
You made it. Welcome.
Yep.
Thank you for making
you.
time.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. No, Tasha, sorry, I'm not interviewing your husband this week. Maybe in the future here. So, all right. Well, everyone, this is my friend David. David and I recently met through an online community of men, and I just thought what he had to offer was worth you guys hearing. So, David, I was just wondering if you could just take a moment and kind of introduce yourself, tell us about what you do, where you're from, and all of that.
Sure. Okay, so I'm David Mee, married to my beautiful wife, Naomi Mee. We've got 5 children.
5? Oh my
yes.
gosh.
Yes. It's busy and crazy, but it's going to be very rewarding. No, it is very rewarding. So, I see Naomi's just jumped on. Hello, beautiful wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So we are in Australia, in South Australia. We live in a little town called Waikerie, which is on the Murray River.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if, Australia's only got one decent river, which is the Murray River, and it kind of goes from the eastern side across the middle and then down. So we're kind of about 3/4 of the way along that.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, beautiful place to live. Gum trees, koalas, the whole Australian,
Dude, you got it
stereotype.
all.
Yeah, except where we live, there's no crocodiles and poisonous things that'll eat you. So we get the best of both worlds.
P.S. Thanks, David. I really appreciate it. That's awesome, man. So, from my understanding, you have a similar background as I do in that you are an electrician by trade, if I'm correct, right?
Yes. Yep. Technically, I'm still an electrician. I don't practice electricianing very much anymore, but yes.
Very cool.
So how did you get started in electrical? Like what area did you begin in?
Yeah. So I actually worked with my brother for 5.5 years. We did started out residential and worked into commercial as well, and sometimes light industrial, but I did that for a while. And that's when I started the Man Effect, was actually while I was being an electrician, realized how much I have a passion for this. So why don't you tell us just a little bit about what you're moving towards? And I'll actually add a link for everyone who's watching later on up to his website. So can you just tell us a little bit about your gig?
Yeah, sure. So my wife Naomi and I, we run a business for mentoring couples who have been through infidelity or porn addiction as part of their marriage. because both of those things do the same thing to the marriage. It basically, as you can imagine,
Yeah.
cuts it off short. And so, because that's been our story, because we both grew up from very unrelational homes, you might say, very lacking in our own self-identity. And
Yeah.
so I was addicted to porn for a long time, since I was very young. And as obviously when the internet came online for me, probably in my early 20s, that kind of just made it so much easier to stay addicted. And that caused obviously huge issues in our relationship. And then about 7 years ago, I had an affair, which obviously that was a disaster, complete disaster for our relationship, obviously. And my wife's a very incredible woman, thankfully. She offered me the option of rebuilding the relationship if I was going to commit to it and stay all in. And so that's what I did. I chose to stay and rebuild the relationship rather than us divorcing. And we've just been rebuilding ever since.
Wow.
It's been a huge journey for us. So, and it's hard to just say simply, like, it's been a very, there's so much stuff has gone on, but we've, on the way of rebuilding, other couples kept discovering us somehow and wanting us to share where we were at and how we were doing this and that. And we would share, and we discovered that people really resonated with our story, and we could really help people just by being open and sharing, and that we both really had a heart for people that were really stuck. You know, this stuff in a relationship, just, it kills it dead unless somebody's got support, unless you've got like good support, not just I mean, pastors and all that can be great. They can also not be great. It's very hit and miss. I'm sure there's amazing pastors out there. Anyway, that's just from our experience. So that's where we've, and that's just grown and grown and grown into a point where it just became a real passion that we wanted to help as many people as we can. And so the only real way to do that is to make it our business, so that we've got the time to, to dedicate to people, because I've obviously full-time job, and time's very precious for 5 children. So that's where we're at the moment. We're building toward being help as many people as we can. So
That's awesome. That's amazing that you're able to and have the desire to help others get through what you've been working on. I love that. And for everyone from my following or from my profile, I'll definitely add a link to his website after this video is posted.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're just happy to chat to people too. If anybody just wants to private message on Facebook, whatever, we're not there. I know we set it to business, but we just want to help people out. And if people need us some text messages backwards and forwards, then that's great. We love it. Don't feel like you can't reach out and contact.
Yeah. You mean you actually care about the humans, not just about the money? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, that's the whole point, Tim.
The only
reason we would ever take money from people is because we have to eat food. So,
and you have 5 kids to feed. What I mean?
And we have 5 kids to feed.
Yeah.
But
seems very practical to me.
We discovered pretty early on that we actually won't have enough time to do too much one-on-one mentoring with people. While we love it, we just won't be able to reach as many people as we'd like to reach. So we're more working towards putting together some online courses, which will really help people in that time period. And then if people are really, really stuck and they want to reach out, well, they can. But we're developing that now. So that's probably more of our focus at the moment, is developing some materials that will really help, with people in that situation. So,
Yeah, that's great. Well,
mm,
just for everyone tuning in, thank you so much for jumping on. Really appreciate you taking the time to check this beautiful beard out and that awesome accent that David's
yeah.
got. Uh,
And I've got a bit of a man cold still, sorry.
um, if you don't know, my name's Timothy Wenger, and I'm from the website The Man Effect. It's a project I've been running based on masculinity, and I've been exploring the topic of what it means to be a man since about 2014 publicly. And these interviews are specifically for me to probe people and ask them what they think about what it means to be a man. So, David, are you ready to jump in here and let me ask you some questions?
Ask away, Tim.
All right. One of my favorite questions to ask people is, if you were to describe what it means to be a man in one word, what would it be and why?
Oh, so easy questions then. To be a man in one word, it's probably not the right word, but the word that comes to mind is intentional.
Mm.
And why would be because I think you need to know who you are, and you need to know things like your core values. You need to be very comfortable in yourself, I
Mm-hmm.
think, as a man. And I think that knowing who you are and being comfortable with yourself, I never resonated with the term love yourself, but
Mm.
like yourself, whatever, the masculine version of love yourself. Be very comfortable in yourself, I like to think of it as. I
Uh-huh.
think I think being intentional from that place is to me, I think, what really separates what I would think of as men, as opposed to maybe just guys that still, trying to figure out life and
Mm.
don't really know what they want, and sometimes their actions aren't very relational, maybe because they don't really know themselves yet.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I, I, what I always find fascinating, my follow-up question to that is, who in your life do you respect the most as a man, and are they intentional then?
You, Tim, definitely. And
I
you're
appreciate
definitely intentional. Yeah.
that.
I
Thank
think
you.
you're the epitome of any man.
Well,
Um,
I appreciate that.
but in my personal life, obviously it's hard living in different countries.
Hmm.
In my personal life, I've got a few men that I respect, and they're all for different reasons. It's very hard to pinpoint somebody who has it all in that sense.
Mm.
And I've had different men in different situations that have really helped me, and I respect them. But they were for that situation,
Mm.
that
Hmm.
season in my life. For instance, I had when when the affair came out. Um, he said, right, well, we need to talk to somebody. And the only person that we were comfortable talking to was our landlord. He was an amazing Christian man. He had 11
Hmm.
kids, um, all
11?
homeschooled.
Oh my
But
gosh.
he was a very manly man in that sense. And he was very passionate about young men too.
Mm.
And he had the time of day to come around and help out. As in, he sat down over coffee, and the first thing he basically said was, you know what, don't waste my time. If you're
Yeah.
serious about wanting to, I've got time for you, but don't waste it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
right, okay, for sure. And he just kind of laid out how he saw where I was, what the man was, and, you know, it was just incredibly helpful. And his life showed it as well. Like he was genuine. I'm not saying he's perfect, but he was very, very genuine, and he was very intentional as well. Very intentional about his family, his children, making time for his wife, that sort of thing. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I also want to give a shout out to Adam. Adam's saying hi to you, David, and so
Hey,
and
Adam, how are you, buddy?
Wanted to say hi to Justin as well. He said, "What's up?"
G'day,
For
Justin.
everyone just jumping in right now, just doing a little interview here for my website. This is David, and he's the man, and he's putting up with me today.
No, Tim's the man. I'm just here. Yeah.
So, David, I'm really curious though. So, like, you live a very exposed, vulnerable life though. Like, you just openly said, like, I had an affair. I chose to stay with my wife, and I'm rebuilding our marriage, and I want to help others in that journey. Like, that's a really vulnerable place, and I highly respect that, that you're able to say that. I'm really curious to know when was a point though when you like remember yourself becoming or taking grips with who you are and where you're at, and just in some terms just taking responsibility for that. What was that moment like for you?
Another simple question. I like it,
Right?
Tim. Yeah, I couldn't tell you that there was a single moment. I've had a series of moments, I think, more like an unfolding or a growth. I would say the first moment along the path for me, I think, was when it was actually what I talked about before. John was the man who came and saw us after the affair. He came and chatted with me. And probably the defining moment for me at that point was he laid out for me how he saw the gospel, like his version of the gospel, which was great, because we were from two very different faith backgrounds. And there was just one thing he said in what he said, which suddenly clicked. And there was like this massive aha moment for me. And it was like, because from my background in the religion that we used to be part of and that I grew up with, there was no salvation as such. It was kind of like a maybe, hopefully, if I'm good enough. It was very, and looking back on it, it was just very, I had to keep trying and being forgiven. And then if I would do something wrong, I'd have to ask for forgiveness and feel very guilty and feel shame. There was a massive shame cycle. And he said something in there. He said, when I believe, then all my sins are forgiven, past, present, future. And because I'd never ever believed the future part of that, I couldn't even comprehend it. All of a sudden something clicked. And I suddenly realized, I've actually been forgiven for everything I haven't even done yet. And it sounds a bit funny just saying it like that, but for me, in my situation, all of a sudden it realized, wow, I don't have to have all the shame and the guilt that had been, it had kept me in its grip. I was kind of just stuck in the shame and guilt. And so being free from that, all of a sudden it just opened me up to Father. I call God Father now because I really feel like he became my father. And in the 6 years since, he's proven and shown. And what he's shown is that I think every healthy man needs some kind of father or father figure, and I didn't have that in any sense except for God, who he showed me that I was loved. Like every little boy needs to feel like they're loved, no matter what, unconditionally, just because they're them, and that's what I never had. So probably the first step on my man journey, I guess, was realizing that I'm actually loved completely just for who I am. And for anyone, I guess, without a faith, it would be more like you are quite acceptable, you're fine, you are absolutely great just for who you are. You don't have to be anybody else. Like your mistakes and your actions don't define you. They're just an outworking of where you're at. But you as a person are completely lovable, And that was probably the start, the start of the aha, which I can't really describe the feeling except for peace. There was just a peace that came over me, and in all the massive turbulent, you know, it was the most terrible time in our life that you can imagine. But yet there
Yeah.
was this peace that I had underneath
Yeah.
all that. And I was incredibly not, whatever the opposite of vulnerable is. Like I wouldn't let anybody in. I was very, very closed. I was extremely
Guarded, maybe?
lived, guarded. I lived in myself because I didn't even know who I was. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I was not very healthy male specimen at all. And so from
Mm-hmm.
that point, knowing that I was loved no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
somehow that just unlocked and freed me I was able to share because nobody could get to that place anymore.
Mm.
Don't know if that makes sense.
It does. C- and so
Yeah,
kind of what I'm hearing is like in that moment of realizing that your shame isn't perpetuated in the future, like you were able just to come into that moment and be present as yourself and accept yourself and then choose to change your trajectory. Is that correct?
absolutely. I mean, it sounds easy, but it was
Yeah.
an
No.
incredibly difficult journey to learn to accept myself. But
Mm.
I still had that underlying feeling that I was loved no matter what, and that
Mm-hmm.
definitely kept changing the cycles that I had. Because I was
Mm.
still addicted to porn at that point. I was an alcoholic. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't relate very well,
Mm.
obviously, to my wife. I didn't know how to relate as a man. And
Yeah.
as these things then came up, somehow because I had that underlying security now, then yeah, I was able to make changes, and the changes were
Mm.
able to stick. Whereas before they could never stick. Um, and
That's
yeah,
really
just being
interesting.
present, and that was okay. You know, I could change something, and then that was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to someone who, specifically other men who are enraptured in addiction or they're wanting their life to change, but it's just not like they don't even know where to start? For you, like if you could talk to yourself back at that moment, what would you say to yourself?
It's a hard one because everybody is stuck in addiction for a different reason.
Mm.
Because I've done a lot of work on addiction since. Um,
Uh-huh.
but fundamentally, fundamentally, it comes down to what you believe about yourself. Is one of the most fundamental parts, I think. And
Mm.
obviously, while I was stuck in addiction, I believed I was powerless. I believed I was worthless. My thing was lack of worth. I had no self-worth, no self-image. So
Mm.
probably the belief about yourself is that if you don't believe you're amazing, that you can do anything you choose to, and that you can be anybody who you choose to be, if you don't believe
Mm-hmm.
that, then you're believing lies. So I guess my message would be to find out what those lies are. What are the lies that are holding you back? What are the lies that you're
Mm.
believing about yourself?
Yeah.
And then you have to find what's true. So that's the two things. You've got to find what the lies,
Yeah.
because you could try and try and try with white willpower is never going to cut it.
Yeah.
And there are lots of ways to get out of addiction, um, but as a real basis, like my passion is to find out the why of everything, is to get to the real base fundamentals of everything, and then start from there. Rather than, I mean, some people can work their way back. You know, you can change behaviours which can filter back and eventually change your beliefs. But for me, the most powerful thing
Yeah.
is to find out what you believe. What are your beliefs? Are they true? Are they not
Mhm.
for you? You know, is your
Yeah.
belief empowering you? Is it stepping you forwards? Is it sending you on a path that you want to go on? And if it's not,
Yeah.
well, then it's not true for you, because otherwise you would
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Something I've personally been practicing aggressively since probably last August. I've been trying to identify exactly that. Like, what is the lie I believe about myself in this situation? Is it I'm not worth winning this sale? Am I not worth people's attention or things like that? So once I identify that and realize I believe that for some reason, then I make myself write the opposite of that, and I read that almost every day until I believe it and change
That's
how I think about
fantastic.
myself. And
That's it.
it's really helped me significantly with my own mental struggles um, and self-condemnation. So I can really identify with what you're saying there, and I would
That,
love to see more people realize that.
oh, that's fantastic. I mean, I've been reading a book you recommended, actually, Psycho Cybernetics,
Yeah.
um, new version, but and that's one of its fundamental messages. But
Hmm.
it's interesting. Something Father told us a long time ago, probably a couple of years into our recovery.
Hmm.
My wife got the message that, or he said to her that if what you are feeling or experiencing is negative, brings out a negative emotion, then there's a lie
Hmm.
involved in it. Somehow or other, you're
Hmm.
believing a lie. So find out what the lie is, replace it with the truth. And that was
Mm.
just his short little message. And we call it the swimming pool message because we were sitting around a swimming pool at the time.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, we've just used that. We didn't think much of it. Well, we didn't actually realize the power of it, but we were using that from like early on, and it was just incredible. And now that
Mm.
I'm doing more research into it, it's just coming out all over the place, and I suddenly realized how fundamentally powerful that actually is. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the like business people I respect and follow, a lot of them, I mean, I don't think they're advocates for mentalities like The Secret or whatever, that book, but they are definitely about changing how we think and believe about ourselves and how they see that play out in their businesses. And I love that. And I'm seeing that pattern more consistently in people who are actually doing aggressively positive things with their lives. So,
Yeah.
uh, just
No,
wanted to
that's
give a
great.
shout out. Also, your wife just was giving me crap because I apparently told her this whole the book secondhand, and Scott Jeffries
I
says
haven't.
you
I've
are what
been very refined. I've
you've been
been
very
very
fine.
restrained. Sorry, I've been very restrained. You know.
You've been holding back, huh?
Well, she
Um,
hates it when I read a book and then I blah, 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 to her. So I'll be very restrained this time. Sorry, carry on.
that's funny. Well, let's jump into another question here. I'm curious. How would you define authentic masculinity?
Hmm.
Another easy one, I know.
Yeah, authentic masculinity. So just checking the question. That's being a man and being true to yourself.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go off that. Let's go off that.
Um, well, I guess we've probably covered that already a bit, but finding out, like, to me, masculinity, I have to put masculinity and femininity together for it to make sense for me
Okay.
because I find it hard. That's just probably the path that I've been on. I find it hard to think of masculinity by itself
Hmm.
because you've got nothing to reference it to.
Okay.
I mean, it's great. Masculinity might be out beating your chest in the woods, um, but if that's all you've got, like it's a bit pointless. Um, so I like to always reference. Sorry.
That's
Um,
fine.
I like to always reference masculinity against what true femininity might look like, especially in a
Mm.
relationship, because then there's an incredible balance, and this is still definitely a journey that I'm working through. I feel like I'm only at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of a real masculine journey.
Mm-hmm.
Is being who you are. I don't like the word unapologetically, but just being and putting in the time and effort to find out who you are, who you want to be yourself. In
Mm-hmm.
some ways, it's hard to put it together. There's two separate sides, because on one hand, you want to be who you are because you want to be who you are. Find out with nobody else involved, like just for you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because if you don't, then you're not truly living out of yourself, which is, I think, where the authentic comes into. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
have to be true for you and know what you want personally before, kind of like before you can then bring that, say, into a relationship where your masculinity really shines, because then you can complement, say, your wife's femininity, or you
Mm-hmm.
can provide that masculine environment
Mm-hmm.
where her femininity can thrive. Because that's the other thing we've really, one of our big ahas in our journey is that the femininity side needs a strong masculine, safe masculine presence to really bloom and thrive. Because
Mm-hmm.
a woman can definitely be herself. She can know who she is, and she can work on personal growth and everything. But the real feminine beauty that women have, that just amazing, incredible qualities that they have, really only
Mm-hmm.
starts to really shine and come through when they're in, I guess it's the whole yin and yang principle. You
Yeah.
have to have
Yeah.
the opposite energy to really come into your own.
Mm.
Um, I'm saying it very wordily, but I think authentic masculinity then is being completely yourself, but then being able to share that masculinity with others.
Mm-hmm.
And you're so confident in yourself that you can either resist the negative stuff that comes, but you're also able not to, you can just give without having to receive anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, in any situation, I think you would be able just to give because
Yeah.
you're okay, in your own
Yeah.
masculine self. Yeah.
So it sounds like just a lot of just being secure, being self-assured, and just knowing who you are as a man. That would be authentic masculinity to you.
Yes, but it's it's easy to say that, but most of us get married and get into a marriage and we're not an authentic man. So
Mm.
then most of our journey, which is where I'm working through at the moment, is becoming that authentic self.
You cut out
And
there.
what?
You cut out there. So
Sorry.
start
Okay.
over.
Yeah.
Start over with that statement.
Okay. Part of our journey, my journey, has been we're already in a relationship generally. When the lights
Mm-hmm.
go on and we realize, become, we need to grow. So
Yeah.
the trick is you're already in a relationship, and you're finding yourself in the relationship while still being loving, while still
Mm.
caring, with not taking away from the relationship, while
Mm-hmm.
still, because our issue in our marriage was very much, we kind of morphed. We both got married young, and we kind of morphed into each other in some weird
Uh-huh.
way. So what we were feeding each other, and it was a mess.
Yeah.
As far as, we didn't have our own identity together. We were kind of like this bit of a schmosh. So trying to
Mm.
separate that out.
Mm.
Um, so I'm still on
So
that journey. If anybody
mm.
knows how you can, there's any
Mm.
great ideas how you can separate out and become yourself while still, contributing well in the marriage. So.
Mm. So it kind of comes back full circle to the first question I was asking you about what it means to be a man. So it's essentially being intentional and being your own person in some ways, and not being morphed into what you were saying, how you guys were like smashed together.
Yeah, that's right, because you still want to be, there's a difference between doing something for your wife that's loving, but it's taking away from you. They sense the energy of that, and it doesn't actually, it's not loving in the end. Whereas if you can do the same, whatever it is, you know, if you can rechange your whole day to change for the kids because whatever, at the last minute, but you do it because you're good and you choose to do that, you've chosen to do that, not out of a, you know, kind of place. They're two completely different things. So, yeah.
Yeah. Scott Jeffries just asked a good question. I think you should give this one a shot. He's asking, are men drawn to women that bring out us, essentially, like bring out the man, bring out in us? So does that make sense?
What do you think, Tim?
Well, I'm not in a committed relationship, so I can't give a solidified answer. But
that's a really good question, that one.
Yeah, I would probably lean towards saying, yeah, I think that women could draw that out in you. But I mean, there's millions of variables in relationships, and people can be empowering or controlling, or there's so many variables. But what do you think? You're the one who's actually married, has 5 kids.
Well, there's two separate things there. There's typically, I think what happens is we attract, if we're not a healthy person, we will tend to attract somebody who feeds that unhealthiness, who will continue the unhealthy cycle in a way. So, for instance, if we are an aggressive, controlling person, we would tend to attract and end up with a woman who, I guess, is more passive and who can be, I guess, your authority and assertiveness can, or it could be the other way. Like I was very passive, didn't really have opinions and didn't really want to put myself into a relationship. And my wife was far more like she knows what she wants. Yeah. And she knows, and she's amazing in the household. She's an incredible mum, an incredible, like she knows, she's got her finger on the pulse of everything. And I was able to kind of step right out of it because she just stepped up and took it like women do. If the man's not there, the woman will step up and just take. So the interesting part of that is the opposite is also true, because if that's our problem, then that is the biggest hurdle then for us to have to change over to become a man or more masculine. That's kind of like maybe our biggest obstacle. And the most amount of self-growth will have to go in to be able to then say, for instance, my situation is to be able to step into that, say, household environment, confidently engage 50-50, be present and active. That's always my struggle, because, and as I grow, I'll be able to more and more, and then in the end, we will have the proper balance where she doesn't feel like she has to carry everything. Yeah. So they definitely draw us out. That's something I can definitely say for sure, because, I mean, and it does your head in, and it can do your head in completely, because women are just the most incredible, mysterious creatures. To learn how to authentically love a woman and still be yourself and still be loving, you have to really, really, really want it. You have to really, and you have to fight for it in yourself. So they definitely draw you out. I think that's how we were made. We were made that way, and that's why I think that's why the best relationships, you don't just, the women are themselves, and the man has to then rise and become the man that can love that woman, and then she in turn will then thrive in that environment. It's incredible when all the energies work, and I've seen it. But when it doesn't work and the man doesn't draw out, he just stays down in whatever it is, addicted or passive or angry. That's when the unhealthy cycle continues.
It seems to be my observation too that the men who are most secure in themselves and intentional in doing their own work, they don't consume other people or in relationships like their significant other. They empower them, and so it's because he's more secure in himself. He's allowed and able to equip other people to become more secure and stable in themselves, and so the relationship benefits from that. But when the man on the other side is insecure, it seems like he's trying to consume the other person and control them so that he doesn't feel insignificant. That's my observation. I can't speak from 100% experience, but
no, that I believe that too. Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Yeah.
Love it. A couple people are commenting. Really love the engagement, guys. If you have a question that you're curious, you should just put it in the comments below. Would love to hear what you have to say. I'm curious, David, what resources, though, have helped encourage and uplift you to become the man you are today? Not saying that you've arrived or that you're some person up on a pedestal, but what are like some tools that have really helped you?
Tools. I've had lots of tools. I've always been a self-help junkie. I couldn't count how many thousand hours I've spent listening to audiobooks and reading books. But as far as the masculine journey goes, I guess it starts, no book is going to help, no resource is going to help until you actually realize that you need to become yourself, that there's actually a need to become you, that you're not actually 100% you yet. You're still finding that out. Well, I know from my experience, I just didn't even realize that. It never computed for a long time.
Yeah.
And so you read stuff and it doesn't stick because it's not relevant. But so
must be getting a text.
As far as tools, I have an alarm and it keeps snoozing. I can't make it go away, so it keeps. Yeah. Anyway, tools that really helped me. I mean, it'd be different for everybody, but I really enjoyed early on in the journey a book called Fathered by God by John Eldridge, because it laid out steps to manhood. I don't know if you've read it. It's like a massively expanded version of Wild at Heart. Like Wild at Heart kind of might aimed at one little section, and he really broadened the scope. And he kind of went through, the beloved son. So do you believe that? Kind of put words to what my journey was happening. Do you feel loved and secure just because you're you? And then he talked about kind of like the adolescent phase, whereas an adventure, he called it the cowboy phase, where you've got to adventure, you've got to fight battles and learn lessons and do darn hard work. You've got to really adventure and find yourself through hard work, through adventure, through trying stuff you've never tried before, all that sort of thing. And ideally connecting with other men, but we don't often get that choice. And it kind of talked through then becoming a warrior, because you have to fight for something. And for me, that became fighting for our relationship. Well, we had to fight a lot of things, actually. We had a lot of pressures all came together. Like we were still in the religion when this all happened, and then I was living on the parents' farm, working there, and it was such a controlling environment for us personally. And so stepping out of that, we had to leave that whole church community. We left religion as such. Like we still have a very passionate faith, but we don't anymore believe that religion helps anybody get closer to Father. I mean, that's a general statement.
Yeah.
So there's that warrior. So warrior and then the lover he talked about, and they go hand to hand, the warrior and the lover, because you need something to fight for to be able to then love. And then he talks about the king stage, and then as you get older, like a sage or like a mentor to other people. That's a fantastic resource for giving you a scope for what your masculine journey might look like. Another one was the psycho-cybernetics. That really got to the real core of, you know, your self-image being the only thing stopping you from being whoever you want to be, you know, from being the most amazing man possible. The only thing stopping you is what you believe about yourself. That really opens up that. I really like that. Another resource, I think, is to get around other men who are passionate about growing and learning, not just complaining and giving their opinions. So, I mean, there's a lot of great groups. There's a lot of great groups online, and I have found myself drawn probably to the Dad's Edge group personally, and then I've joined the Alliance is even better again, because everyone in the Alliance is just passionate about growing. Being around a group of men who don't judge you, but will call you out if you need to, but because they care, and everyone is passionate about growing in whatever area. I mean, just hanging out in a bigger group where men just give their opinions, it can help, but it's also, you feel very judged a lot, you know, and you don't want to share, you know. You don't want to be vulnerable in that environment. But if you can find yourself, even if you can only find yourself a small group of guys, as long as everybody's passionate about growing something, I reckon that's an amazing resource for any guy who wants to grow. Yeah.
Two things. First thing, I can hear myself echo. I don't know if your headphone is out or in, if you could check that. And then Jenny asked who we're listening to here. This is my good friend, David Mee. David, it's good now. I can't hear myself echo anymore.
Okay.
And David's from Australia. We met online, and he is passionate about helping men who've had struggles in their marriage, cheated in their marriage, or have struggles with pornography. And so I decided it'd be really good to have him on. So anyway, those are just some resources. That was my last question, was asking him about resources. I'm going to ask you another hard one, David. Are you ready for this? Do you need a stretch? Kind of get loosened up?
Okay. I'm all good. Hit me with it, Tim.
You're all good. Let's see. Which one do I want to do? Oh, man. Who would you describe as being one of the most masculine people you know, and why?
I thought you asked. Didn't you ask me that one already, Tim? I said you.
No, I said the most masculine in your life. We just met not that long ago, so you can't use me.
Oh, okay. The most masculine. That I've really struggled with that one, quite honestly. I would have to say there's been a few people, but for different reasons. Like, I've not met somebody who I would just go, wow, and that's just my personal.
Yeah.
Who I've never met somebody who go, wow, like, he's just a complete man. You know, like, I've had, like the amazing Christian guy who first, The Rock. My wife just says The Rock. Yeah, The Rock's it. No. Dwayne Johnson. No. He's, I mean, I do like some of his inner stuff too. He talks about depression and his daughter and that sort of thing. But, he had so this Christian guy, that older man, he was John. He was incredibly masculine in the sense that he was very sure of himself. Like, I wouldn't necessarily agree with everything he said, but he also was very open that other people could believe something different, and that was okay. That didn't affect him, and he didn't feel the need to change anybody.
What's up, Greg, by the way? Yeah, sorry, keep going.
Hey, good day, Greg. But he also was very passionate about helping others, but then he also lived what he said. Like, he would say, we've got to take responsibility for this and this and this, you know, as men and as fathers and husbands. And but when you went to his house, he actually did that. That's probably, in that sense, he was very authentic, in that sense that he wasn't just saying it but not doing it. And I've had other men that, like there was another older guy from the church at that point who we had a little bit to do with. He was very open-minded, and that was a big one for us at the time. Is being open-minded to look at other possibilities. Don't just be stuck in whatever way you've been, but be open to looking at lots of different possibilities. I actually found that quite masculine, because I really don't resonate with men that are very opinionated in that sense and won't look at anything else.
Yeah.
So to me, being open-minded is quite masculine. And no, I'm sure there's others. I've had a lot of amazing men. I mean, I've had younger guys that I really respect their masculine side, like more my age in different areas. But I think at our age, we're still developing. You know, you can't have a full spectrum. Like one of my good mates is very. I really admire his. Like he's very theological, and he likes to think things. Oh, is it? Yeah, he's very open and very theological, but I really respect him as far as just his dedication to his wife and kids. There's real care, like there's real care. So there's a lot of different qualities from different people. I think the way I've had to go at trying to find the masculine role models.
Yeah. So what you're saying is masculinity doesn't just fit under one title or one word. Like it's a actual process, and it takes work to obtain. It's not just a pill you take and one day you're a man.
No, it's a big journey. I guess it's like anything. With any skill you have, perhaps, or any quality, there's so many facets to it, and there's always so many different areas that you could be focusing on. Yeah, I think so.
I love that.
And we might be naturally gifted in some areas, and we might have to work darn hard in others, and I think masculinity is the same. I've got some areas that I don't have to worry too much about, and I've got other areas that are a real struggle, so I have to put a lot of time and intention and focus on those areas. So
so we'll make this the last question for today. What's like one area of your life as a man that you're wanting to develop and grow in?
Just one area.
Sure.
Another easy question. Probably for me, my personal journey right at the moment, it keeps changing. But at the moment, probably my personal area, it would be becoming more authentic, discovering who I really am and being completely comfortable in that. Like I've still got areas in our relationship, like I'm great. I can give so much advice to anybody who's had a disaster in their marriage and needs to rebuild back to a place. But I feel like we've rebuilt to a place where our marriage is now, you know, we would call it a relationship, and we would call it, you know, happily married, and we're focused on the relationship. But I can see that there's so much scope for making that then relationship become an amazing relationship. So part of that I know is I've still got areas where, you know, I get triggered and bits of my teenage side come out that are very unmasculine, you know. It makes her feel very like that's teenage behavior, or I mean, she's an empath too, so she senses energy, and you can't get away with anything. you can be
Mm-hmm.
acting as manly
Can't
as you
get away
like,
with anything.
but your energy has got this kind of teenage twinge to it. And she's like, oh, you're like, that's been a hard one, actually, learning just to take a big, deep breath. And
Mm.
she's not judging me for it. She can't help it. Like, it just is. And it's my issue that I'm coming across. And you know what? I know that's still an area that's developing, and I just trust that this process and working through this, it's going to bring that out. It's so hard when you can see something that you want to change,
Yeah.
but you just can't make it happen. You have to actually grow. You have to go through a process. That's probably
Mm.
one of the hard bits is, yep, trusting that this is going to happen, but you need to know that it's going to happen, and you need to.
Oh, lost you here. Bummer. David, are you still there? I bet you he got a call, guys. He might jump back on here or not. We'll see. I think it's so important for men to do the work, and if he does come back on, we'll ask him about the we'll give him a couple seconds here. Oh, it looks like we lost him. Bummer. Well, anyway, guys, I guess we'll end it there. I think it's really important for men, though, to take the steps to better themselves, and what that looks like is confronting the lies we believe about ourselves. It looks like opening up to others, asking for help, uh, building our muscle of self-discipline, and doing things we don't want to do, confronting the hard decisions of life. So just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone for watching. I'm going to be trying to do one of these once a week. So if you like the content, add me on Facebook. I'm going to be adding the links to my website and my Facebook page as well. I really appreciate you guys taking time to watch this, and stay tuned, all right? Have a good day.